Hey everyone, welcome back to Darren Tumbles. In today's video, we're going to be going over the whole journey from tearing my ACL on September 30th, 2022 to the surgery that was a year later, October 10th, 2023 to now end of September 2024, where I'm finally back flipping. I was tumbling at a gym, and the tumbling pass I was doing was a back handspring full, back handspring, double full. When I landed the double full, I landed with my legs straight, which if you know anything about tumbling gymnastics, you know you're not supposed to do that. So I hyperextended my knee while also twisting into the ground. And right away, I thought I broke my leg. Like, I just felt like something broke. And so I screamed out in pain and just fell to the ground instinctually. And I had a coworker come up to me at the time, and I didn't want to look at my leg because I was very scared because I had never felt anything that painful really in my whole life. So I just asked her, I said, "How does my knee look? Like, how's my leg looking?" She was like, "It looks okay. Like, I'm not seeing anything look super wrong." So in my delusional mind at the time, I was like, great, I'm okay then. I'm gonna just stand up and walk out of here, which I did. And then I drove home and had to walk up my apartment stairs. And then I basically just sat on the couch for 2 days, hoping that it would get better. But little did I know, it was an ACL tear. So it, of course, did not get better. And it was extremely swollen to the point where I could barely move my leg at all, much less bend it with full range of motion. So after those 2 days spent on my couch, I went to an urgent care, and I knew something was wrong because I was limping, swollen knee, couldn't even bend my leg. They just thought it was a sprain though. This is your sign where if you know something is wrong with your body, really advocate for yourself in the doctor's office, because they're just trying to get you in and out quickly, right? They see a million patients, but if you truly feel like something is wrong, then you just need to be very vocal about that to the doctor, because I wish I would have been more vocal, because what ended up happening was I ended up having to get a new primary doctor in this new place I lived. And he just recommended, oh, just go to physical therapy. Like, it's just a sprain. I'm sure physical therapy will take care of it. I didn't want there to be any serious problems with my knee or leg. So I was like, sure, I'll just do physical therapy. If the doctor thinks that'll make it better, then let's try that. But deep down, I definitely knew something was more seriously wrong, because I've been flipping for over 10 years. So, like, I know what a sprain feels like, versus this pain that I was having was unlike any other pain I've ever had. So I wish I would have spoken up more. If you are in a situation like this, do not be afraid to speak up. So I did months of physical therapy on a torn ACL. And I don't know, maybe I have like a high pain tolerance, because they were always asking, how's your knee feel? And I would say, well, it aches, but I mean, it was feeling better than when I had initially injured it. So I was, again, just like delusional, hoping I wasn't that badly hurt. But eventually it stopped getting better at all and just kind of stayed this like painful, aching annoyance. Shout out to that physical therapy team I had, because they eventually were like, you're still in pain pretty much every time you come in. So we think something's more wrong here than just a sprain, so we're gonna recommend that you get an MRI. So I get the MRI, and then the doctor calls me, and he was like, oh, this is kind of shocking, but turns out your ACL is torn. And it was just like this moment of confirmation where it was like, oh my God, finally I have the answer that I've been looking for a year. I didn't want to hear it, but I deep down needed that validation and confirmation of like, okay, I'm not just being a baby, like something seriously wrong has happened, and now there's steps to move forward. So soon after getting the MRI, we scheduled the surgery, and the surgery happened just over a year after the injury. So there was a whole year where I was doing everything, working, physical therapy, trying my best to run and jump, on a torn ACL. It was a rough year. And oh my God, I was so scared to get the surgery. I've never had any surgery in my entire life. And so at this point, I was 23 years old, getting my first surgery ever. Oh my God, you guys. The day of surgery, my anxiety was through the roof. It was like a full panic attack while I was there getting prepped for surgery. And I remember the doctors being like, "What are you scared of?" And I was like, literally every step of this, like every part of this surgery is scary because you're gonna drill into my bones and like cut my muscle apart and like graft it into a new ACL. It was a pretty intense surgery for your first ever surgery, is what I'm saying. Luckily, I had my partner there along with me, so he definitely was a huge mental support. And my parents actually came after the surgery just to, bring me back home and make sure I was doing all right. And so after you get your ACL surgery, it's a 9-month recovery. And that was really, really hard for me mentally because I had already spent a year before that being injured and trying to do physical therapy. And now it's like you're starting over. Right after surgery, the big thing they have you do is just like try to lift your leg. That sounds easy enough, right? Yeah, I can lift my leg. Well, when they literally take out a piece of your leg muscle to create that new ACL, your leg doesn't want to lift because it just went through some trauma. So I remember just laying on the couch, leg all bandaged up, have the big metal brace on, and just looking at my leg, trying to lift it, but thinking, like, I literally don't know if this is possible. Like, I'm trying to lift my leg right now, and it's just not happening. Weirdest, freakiest feeling ever. Eventually, though, you keep trying, you start to lift your leg, it starts to get easier. You basically have to make like that mind muscle connection again with your leg, and it is a hard process, but now in hindsight, totally worth it. I went to physical therapy and I knew the types of exercises they wanted me to do. And also at this time, me and my partner were planning to move a few states away. So I stopped going like to the office for physical therapy and was just doing those exercises every single day at home while also, packing up a house and moving to a new place. And then I would say about like 7 months after the surgery is when they tell you you can start like jumping again and like pivoting on your leg. And I was so like depressed at this point because I hadn't really tumbled in, a year and a half at least. I wish I would have been a little more patient, but it was just really hard because you have the 9 months after the surgery, like that I understand, but I also had that year before the surgery of just being injured for a year. So really it was like a 2-year process to have that full function of my knee back. So 7 months-ish post-surgery, I was very frustrated still that I was not able to tumble really at all. And I was still in a good amount of pain, more than I thought I would be at that point. So I had to find a new doctor here in the new place that we live. We got another MRI done because I was still in pain, and they found that when I had the surgery in 2023, I had like micro tears in my meniscus, but the doctors didn't do anything about it during the surgery because they're just micro tears. Like we checked it out while you were under anesthesia, and there was nothing really for us to fix. It was just very, very, very small tears in the meniscus. So they're like, we're not worried about your meniscus, and the ACL surgery actually went fine. But after the 7 months of recovery and getting that new MRI, they said the micro tears had grown. They had gotten larger. And so that's where some of the pain was coming from. And so they were like, we recommend that you go back into the office for physical therapy. Because remember, I was just doing most of the exercises at home every single day. But they're like, just go back to like the actual PT office and get like their professional help and opinion. So I was like, okay, let's try that. Very happy I did because I really, really like my new physical therapist. She's super awesome. And she really works well with me on understanding what my goals are. Like she knows that I want to jump and tumble and flip. And so she builds my physical therapy regimen around that. The goal with the physical therapy isn't to heal your meniscus tears, because trust me, I really wish that your meniscus would heal itself, but news to me that I had to learn was that your meniscus doesn't get much blood flow to it, so it doesn't really repair itself. What you can do in physical therapy is just build up the muscles around your knee as much as possible so that the muscles are strong enough to take the impact of jumping and tumbling rather than all on your knee joint itself. And so that made sense to me. Again, it was kind of depressing knowing that your body's not just gonna fully heal as quick as you want it to. And I'm gonna admit this, I'm kind of a perfectionist. Like, I just want stuff to be fixed and I want it to be perfect. But this journey has taught me that that is not always possible, and that's okay, but there are other steps that you can do to help the situation. And so the best thing I could do was to do as much physical therapy as I could for my leg and just build up those muscles as much as possible. And so that's really what I've been doing the last 5 months. And I will say, the physical therapy has helped a lot, to the point where I started doing a little bit more stuff on the trampoline. Like, each time I would go into the gym, I would just try to do like 1 or 2 new things each time, but it was a very slow and gradual increase of difficulty. Like, for a while, all I would do was just like handsprings on a trampoline. As it got to be like 10 months after surgery, I started doing front tucks and back tucks on the trampoline. And when that felt okay, I was like, okay, I can do layouts. And then once I could do a layout, I'm like, okay, well, I could do a full. Remember, the skill I tore my ACL on was a double full. So that was obviously a mental struggle to do that skill again. And I'm not a big fan of 1.5s, but you better believe I did a lot of 1.5s on the trampoline before I thought about doing a double. Just because it was a little scary to try that skill again that literally caused you to have surgery, even on a trampoline. But I felt confident because I had done a lot of progressions over weeks and months building up on the trampoline, to where finally I'm like, okay, these 1.5s are super easy. I know where I'm at in the air. I'm gonna go for the double again. Did the double full, went great. I was super happy. I was like, oh my God, finally I kind of feel like myself again, even though it was just on a trampoline, not even on the floor. But those little wins definitely made me feel more normal, because the 2 years of being injured and recovering was just like, I felt like a different person. I felt like my body was changing. I was getting weaker. And then starting to build back up my skills and strength, I started just to feel like myself again. And that was the best feeling. Once I could do double fulls on the trampoline pretty easily, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start going back to the floor. And it pretty much starts that cycle over of like, okay, just do a round off on the floor this week. And like, just do some round offs and some rebounds and see how it goes. And then once that felt pretty good, I'm like, okay, let's try round off back handspring rebounds. And I would just do a bunch of those. And the next week, I would try round off back handspring back tuck. Landing was definitely weird. Like, the tumbling felt the same as it's always felt for me. Again, you have that muscle memory from years of doing it, but coming back onto the floor, trying these flips, I was scared to land. Like, I would go for the skills and it would feel fine, but when I would land, I would just like take a bunch of steps after the flip, because I didn't want to land hard. I didn't want to try to stick it. I just wanted to do the flip, stay on my feet, and that's all I cared about. Once I could do a layout, I felt like doing a full was easy. Like, fulls are a very easy skill for me. So I spent a lot of time doing round off back handspring fulls on the floor. I probably did fulls for a month before I tried to do any other harder skills like Arabian step outs or 1.5s or even a double. Like, I stayed on fulls for a while just to keep getting stronger, but also build my confidence. I was definitely still like nervous, and I kept thinking that something was gonna go wrong, like suddenly I was gonna be in a lot of pain, but sticking to the slow progressions and just slowly building and building more difficulty in was the right thing to do. So I'm glad I did that. And then I did a few 1.5s on the floor just to make sure like my air awareness was there. I didn't love doing those so much though, because I felt like that like blinds landing hurt my knee just a little bit more than if I did just a full, where I could like spot the ground easily. But I wanted to do the 1.5s just to go through all the progressions. And so then just this last weekend, I did my first double full on the floor. And it probably took me like a good 4 or 5 minutes of just standing in the corner, like visualizing myself doing it, hyping myself up, giving myself tips and reminders of how to do this skill and how to land in a good way. Because I knew physically I could do it, but it was more just like the fear of like, oh my gosh, like it's been 2 years since I've done this skill on the floor, and now you have that like dangerous element stuck in the back of your head. When before, like, I would think about how to, land safely, but now it's like kind of at the forefront of your head of like, oh my God, like, I'm gonna go for this hard skill and I need to be really focused on landing safely. But when I finally did the double full, I was instantly so happy. It was a huge mood boost. 2 years of hard work was finally paying off, and I also was really wanting to do a standing full. First couple times, I actually fell on it, which I knew where I was and I knew that I could land it. So by the third attempt, I landed that standing full, and that again was just like a huge dopamine rush, because these are skills that I had worked years to get. And then I felt like I just lost all of my skills when I got injured. Like I went from having basically perfected these skills as much as possible to literally not being able to do anything. And that was hard mentally. And so my goal had always been like, I want to get back to it. I want to get my skills back, because I had worked so hard for them in the past that I know I can do it again. It just took a lot longer than I wanted it to. 2 years is a long time. But I tell you, as soon as I did those skills on the floor, the standing full and the double full, it like clicked in my brain that all that work was worth it. And I would say I'm probably like 85 to 90% back with my tumbling skills. Like there's definitely some things I still want to do and work on, but I'm happy where I'm at, and I can see that there's a path forward. My advice to anybody going through a similar injury like this is be patient. I know it's a long process, but I wish I would have given myself more grace and just allowed myself to be patient with the recovery process, because your body needs time to heal. Even though I mentally felt like I could do these flips, like your body just needs a lot of time to heal from something traumatic like that. And actually giving yourself that grace is gonna help you in the long run. If you try to rush it, like I did a few times, I tried to just like do things that were outside of what my physical therapist would recommend. It did not go well. So be gradual with how you're progressing. Don't push too hard too fast. It's not worth it. It's actually gonna make it harder for your body to recover. So my other advice would also to be very consistent. Some days I really hated doing physical therapy because it was just so boring compared to tumbling. I had basically been doing those physical therapy exercises for 2 years, so I was just very bored of it, and it would actually like make me angry to where I didn't want to do physical therapy. But as long as your body is feeling up for it, you should always try to push yourself to get it done. This also falls into the advice category. Make sure you have a good support system. I would say one of my biggest supporters during all of this was my partner. I mean, he had to hear me just rant and vent about how difficult this journey was and how it was so depressing, and I just wanted to get back to doing flips because it's what I've always loved to do since I was a little kid. And it was actually his recommendation that I find another activity that can give me sort of that same feeling of, flipping and, being a little bit competitive. And that's actually how I started diving again. I did dive for like 1 year when I was 14. Now I'm 24, so literally 10 years later. And I'm so glad he had that idea and I listened to him, because it's way less pressure and impact on my knee to where I can do a full hour and a half practice twice a week, and I never think about my knee pain while I'm there. Like, I don't even have knee pain while I'm diving, because the diving boards are so bouncy, which I did not remember from when I did it as a 14-year-old. They're like more bouncy than a trampoline, and then most of the time you're landing, hands first into the water. So I could just flip and flip and flip for 90 minutes as much as I wanted and basically not have any knee pain at all. And that was another big step for me to feel normal again, to feel like I'm not weak anymore, like I'm getting stronger. And so thank you to my partner for that. But that is going to be the end of today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this video helps some people who are in a similar situation as I was in. For a while, I literally thought I was just never going to tumble again. Like, literally thought I would never flip again, and that was so depressing to me. But I'm here to tell you, that's not the case. Go through the progressions, do all your physical therapy, give yourself grace, be patient, and it is possible to get back to those skills you were doing before. It's funny to me that I'm saying this now, because 6 months ago, I could not see the light at the end of the tunnel, but now I feel like a new me. I'm feeling stronger than I felt in the last 2 years. And I just want to thank you all so much for watching. If you found this video helpful or inspiring in any way, comment your story. I would love to get a support group going in the comments. Leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.